I thought buying my first house at 28 would be the beginning of my happiest chapter. After 6 years of working endless overtime at the marketing firm, saving every penny, I finally held those keys in my trembling hands. The three-bedroom home in Portland was everything I had dreamed of. But as I stood in my empty living room that first night, I had no idea that this achievement would become the moment I discovered who my family really was. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If this resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. You will not believe what happens next. Let me paint you the picture of my life before everything changed. I am Sarah, and I have been working as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company here in Portland, Oregon. For years, I lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, counting every dollar that went toward rent, groceries, and my house fund. My life revolved around one goal: homeownership. My family lives scattered across the country. My parents, Linda and Robert, retired to Phoenix, Arizona, where they spend their days complaining about the heat and their limited retirement income. Then there is my younger sister, Amanda, 25, who lives with her husband, Tyler, and their two children, Marcus, who just turned 7, and little Luna, who is 4 years old. Amanda never found her footing after high school. She bounced between part-time jobs at retail stores and coffee shops, never staying anywhere long enough to build real skills. Tyler works part-time at a warehouse, but his schedule is inconsistent. Between the two of them, they barely scrape together enough for rent on their cramped two-bedroom apartment across town. When I found my house, everything felt perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a small backyard where I could finally plant the garden I had always wanted. The price was $315,000, which stretched my budget to its absolute limit, but I qualified for the mortgage. I had worked so hard for this moment. The day I got my keys, I called my mother first. I expected excitement, maybe even pride in what I had accomplished. Instead, her response was lukewarm at best. "That is nice, honey," Linda said, but her tone suggested otherwise. "That house seems awfully big for just one person. What are you going to do with all that space?" The question caught me off guard. I had not bought the house thinking about anyone else. I bought it for me, for my future, for the stability I had craved my entire adult life. My father, Robert, congratulated me, but even his words felt hollow. "Good for you, Sarah. Just remember, with privilege comes responsibility." I did not understand what he meant at the time, but those words would haunt me in the weeks that followed. 2 days later, Amanda called me for a FaceTime session. She wanted to see the house, she said, and I was happy to give her the virtual tour. I walked through each room with my phone, showing her the hardwood floors, the updated kitchen, the master bedroom with its walk-in closet. "Wow," Amanda kept saying, "this is really big, like really big for just you." There it was again, that phrase that made my stomach twist uncomfortably. Just you, as if my single status somehow made my achievement less valid, less deserving. "I love having space," I told her, trying to keep my voice light. "I can finally have a home office and maybe turn one room into an art studio." Amanda nodded, but I could see something calculating in her expression through the phone screen. She asked detailed questions about the bedrooms, about whether the kids would like the backyard, about how close the elementary school was to my neighborhood. At the time, I thought she was just being curious. I realize now she was already planning. 2 weeks after I moved in, my family organized a group video call. These calls happen maybe once every few months, usually around holidays or birthdays. This one felt different from the start. "So, Sarah," my mother began after the usual pleasantries, "Amanda and Tyler are going through a really tough time right now." I looked at Amanda's face on the screen. She did look stressed, her usually bright eyes shadowed with worry. "What is happening?" I asked. "Our landlord is raising the rent again," Tyler explained. $200 more per month, we cannot afford it. "And the kids need their own rooms," Amanda added. "Marcus is getting older, and sharing a room with Luna is not working anymore. They both need space to grow." I felt bad for them, I really did. Housing costs had skyrocketed everywhere, and I knew how hard it was to make ends meet with a young family. "Have you looked at other apartments?" I suggested. "Maybe something a little further out where rent might be cheaper." My mother jumped in before Amanda could answer. "Sarah, you have that big house now. You could help your family." The words hung in the air like a challenge. I felt my chest tighten with anxiety. What do you mean? I asked, though I was beginning to understand exactly what she meant. You have 3 bedrooms, my father said. Amanda has 2 children who need stability. Family helps family, especially when someone has the means. I stared at their faces on my laptop screen, feeling like I was suddenly the defendant in a trial I had not known I was attending. I just moved in, I said carefully. I am still settling in, figuring out my space. Space you have plenty of, Amanda said, and there was an edge to her voice that I had not heard before. I mean, what do you need 3 bedrooms for? You do not even have a boyfriend. The comment stung more than I expected. As if my relationship status somehow diminished my right to choose how I lived. I need time to think about this, I said. Time to think about helping your own sister, my mother asked. Sarah, I raised you better than this. The call ended awkwardly with promises to talk soon, an underlying tension that made my stomach churn. I sat in my beautiful, quiet living room afterward, suddenly feeling like the space was too big, too empty, too much for someone like me. That night, Amanda called me privately. She was crying when I answered. Sarah, I am so scared, she sobbed. We do not know what we are going to do. The kids are already stressed about moving again, and we cannot afford anywhere decent in a good school district. My heart broke listening to her. Despite everything, she was my little sister, and I hated hearing her in pain. What if we stayed with you temporarily? She asked. Just until we can save up enough for a security deposit somewhere else. Maybe 3 or 4 months just to get back on our feet. Amanda, I started. Please, Sarah, I would not ask if we were not desperate. You have the space and we would be so grateful. The kids love you so much and Marcus keeps asking when he can see Aunt Sarah's new house. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of family obligation pressing down on me like a physical force. I need to think about it, I said finally. What is there to think about? Amanda snapped, her tears suddenly gone. I cannot believe how selfish you have become since getting that house. You used to care about family. That is not fair, I protested. Is it not? Amanda asked. You have this huge house, more space than you could ever need, and you would rather let your own sister and her children become homeless than share it. You would not be homeless, I said. There are other options. Not for us, Amanda said coldly. Not with our credit and our income? But I guess that is not your problem anymore, is it? She hung up on me, leaving me staring at my phone in shock. I had never heard Amanda speak to me with such venom, such calculated cruelty. I walked through my house that night, looking at it with new eyes. Was I being selfish? Was this space really too much for one person? Had success changed me in ways I did not recognize? But even as I questioned myself, a small voice in my head whispered that something was not right about this whole situation. The pressure, the guilt, the way everyone seemed to have already decided what I should do with my own home. I just did not realize yet how much worse it was going to get. The phone calls started the next morning. My mother called before I had even finished my first cup of coffee. I hope you are reconsidering your position about Amanda, she said without even saying hello. Good morning to you too, Mom, I replied. This is not a joke, Sarah. Your sister called me crying last night because of how you treated her. How you treated her children. I did not treat anyone badly, I said. I told her I needed to think about it. What is there to think about? Linda demanded, echoing Amanda's words exactly. You have a big house, they need help, end of story. It is not that simple, I said. Yes, it is, my mother replied. We raised you to be kind, to put family first. I do not know what has happened to you since you got this house, but you are not the daughter I thought I raised. The words hit me like a slap. My own mother was questioning my character because I had not immediately offered up my home to my sister. My father called an hour later with a different approach. Sarah, honey, I know you worked hard for that house, he said, his voice gentle but firm. But with great blessing comes great responsibility. You have been given an opportunity to help your family in their time of need. Dad, I am not saying no forever. I tried to explain. I just need time to figure this out. Time your sister does not have, Robert replied. Every day you delay is another day those children live in uncertainty. Is that the aunt you want to be? Again with the guilt, again with making me feel like a monster for not immediately sacrificing my own space and peace of mind. That afternoon, Amanda posted on Facebook. The post was clearly aimed at me, though she did not mention my name directly. Sometimes you find out who people really are when they get a little success, she wrote. Blood means nothing to some people. Praying my babies will have a roof over their heads next month. Within hours, the post had dozens of comments from family, friends, and distant relatives, all expressing sympathy and support for Amanda. Several people tagged me in comments, asking if I could help my sweet sister in her time of need. I felt exposed, judged by people who did not know the whole story. Amanda was painting herself as the victim of circumstances beyond her control, while painting me as the heartless sister who could help but chose not to. My cousin Rachel called that evening. I saw Amanda's post, she said. Is everything okay between you two? It is complicated, I said. I mean, you do have that big house now, Rachel continued, and Amanda has always been there for family when people needed help. I wanted to ask when exactly Amanda had been there for anyone else, but I kept my mouth shut. I am just trying to figure out the best way to help, I said instead. Sometimes the best way is the obvious way, Rachel replied before hanging up. The pressure was coming from every direction now. Family members I had not spoken to in years were suddenly reaching out with opinions about my obligations to Amanda. Old family friends were messaging me on social media, sharing stories about times they had helped relatives in need. My mother sent me text messages throughout the week, each one more manipulative than the last. Saw Marcus at school pickup today. He looks so sad. Asked me if Aunt Sarah does not love him anymore. Amanda had another panic attack. Doctor says stress is affecting her health. Hope you can live with yourself. Your father and I are embarrassed to tell people how our daughter is treating family. This is not how we raised you. Each message felt like a small knife to my chest. I had never been the bad guy in my family before. I was the responsible one, the one who had her life together, the one everyone could count on. But now I was being painted as selfish, heartless, and cruel, all because I had not immediately opened my doors to 4 additional people in the home I had worked 6 years to afford. Amanda tried a different approach the following week. She called me while I was at work, knowing I would be in a professional mindset. I have been thinking about what you said. She began, her voice calm and reasonable. About needing time to think. I understand this is a big decision for you. I felt a wave of relief. Maybe she was finally seeing my perspective. Thank you, I said. I appreciate that. But I need you to understand our timeline, Amanda continued. We have to give our landlord an answer by the end of this month about the rent increase. If we cannot pay it, we need to be out by November 1st. That gave us 3 weeks. What if I helped you find another place? I offered. I could help with a security deposit or maybe co-sign a lease if your credit is the issue. Sarah, we have looked everywhere, Amanda said. Do you know what 2-bedroom apartments are going for in decent neighborhoods? $1,500, $1,800 a month? We cannot afford that, even with your help on the deposit. What about moving further out? I suggested. And uproot the kids from their schools. Take them away from their friends. Make Tyler drive an hour each way to work. Amanda's voice was getting sharper again. You have the solution right there in your house, but you would rather make us choose between financial ruin and disrupting our entire lives. That is not what I am trying to do, I said. Then what are you trying to do? Amanda demanded. Because from where I sit, it looks like you are trying to find any excuse not to help us. I suggested a compromise. What if you stayed for a shorter time? Maybe just until Christmas? That would give you 3 months to save money and find something else. 3 months? Amanda laughed bitterly. Sarah, it took you 6 years to save enough for a house. You think we can save enough for a deposit and first month's rent in 3 months on Tyler's part-time income? She was right, and I knew it. But the thought of having 4 additional people in my house for an indefinite period made my anxiety spike. I need more time to think about this, I said. No, Amanda said firmly. You have had enough time. I need an answer by Friday. That is not fair, I protested. You know what is not fair, Amanda replied. Having a sister with a 3-bedroom house who would rather see her niece and nephew in an unstable living situation than share her space. She hung up again, leaving me shaking in my office chair. That night, I called my best friend Jessica, the only person in my life who seemed to understand what I was going through. "They are manipulating you," Jessica said bluntly after I told her the whole story. "This is classic family guilt tripping." "But what if they are right?" I asked. "What if I am being selfish?" "Sarah, you bought that house with your own money after years of sacrifice and hard work. You have every right to decide how you use it." "But they are family," I said. "Family does not mean you have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm," Jessica replied. "And real family would not pressure you like this." Her words stuck with me, but they could not completely silence the guilt that had been building in my chest for weeks. By Thursday, I was a mess. I had not been sleeping well, my work performance was suffering, and I felt like I was trapped between impossible choices. Then Amanda forced my hand in the most dramatic way possible. Friday afternoon, I was working from home when I heard car doors slamming in my driveway. I looked out my window and felt my heart stop. Amanda's beat-up sedan was parked behind my car, and Tyler was unloading suitcases from the trunk. Marcus and Luna were running around my front yard like they owned the place. I opened my front door before they could knock. "What are you doing?" I asked, though the answer was obvious. "We are here," Amanda announced, walking past me into my house like she belonged there. "I figured you would come around once you saw how much the kids love this place." "Amanda, I never said yes," I said, following her into my living room where Tyler was already setting down luggage. "You never said no either," Tyler replied, "and Amanda said you would work it out once we were here." "Thanks for finally doing the right thing, Aunt Sarah," he added, as if I had actually invited them. Marcus ran up to me with his arms outstretched. "Aunt Sarah, can I see my room now?" "Your room?" I asked weakly. "Mommy said I get my own room here," Marcus said excitedly, "and Luna gets the other one." I looked at Amanda in horror. "You told them they were moving in." "I told them we were staying with family who loves us," Amanda said coolly, "which is what I thought was happening." Luna had discovered my backyard and was squealing with delight at the small garden I had started. "Mommy, can we plant flowers?" "Of course, baby," Amanda called to her. "This is our home now, too." "Amanda, this is not okay," I said, trying to keep my voice low so the kids would not hear. "You cannot just show up and move in without discussing this with me." "We do not have anywhere else to go," Amanda said, and suddenly she was crying again. "The landlord gave us notice yesterday. We are officially homeless as of Monday." "That is not my fault," I said, feeling cruel even as I said it. "But it could be your solution." Tyler jumped in. "Look, we get that this is awkward, but we are family. We will make it work." "I never agreed to this," I repeated. "Well, we are here now," Amanda said, wiping her tears. "And I'm not taking my children to sleep in our car just because you suddenly decided you do not want to help family." She knew exactly what she was doing, making it impossible for me to say no without looking like a monster who would put children on the street. "I need to call Mom and Dad," I said. "Good idea," Amanda replied. "They should know we are safe." I went to my bedroom and called my parents. My mother answered on the first ring. "Amanda told us she was heading to your place," Linda said before I could speak. "Thank goodness you finally came to your senses." "Mom, I never agreed to this," I said. "They just showed up with all their stuff." "Well, what did you expect her to do?" my mother demanded. "You have been stringing her along for weeks. She had to take action." "This is not taking action, this is manipulation," I said. "This is family helping family," Linda replied. "Something you seem to have forgotten how to do." "I want you to call them and tell them to leave," I said. "I will do no such thing," my mother said. "Those children need stability and you have a house with plenty of room." "Mom, please," I begged. "Sarah, your father and I are very disappointed in how you have handled this situation. Amanda and those children are staying there, and that is final." She hung up on me. I sat on my bed feeling like my world was spinning out of control. In the span of one afternoon, I had lost control of my own home, my own life, my own choices. I could hear the family settling in downstairs. Tyler was talking about which bedroom would be his, and Amanda was making lunch plans, and the kids were running through the house like it was Christmas morning. But this was not generosity or family love. This was a hostile takeover of my life orchestrated by people who saw my success as their property. I walked downstairs to find Amanda unpacking groceries in my kitchen. "I hope you do not mind, I picked up some food for the kids," she said. "Tyler can reimburse you later." "Amanda, we need to talk," I said. "Of course," she replied. "But let me get the kids settled first. Marcus, come pick which bedroom you want." "Actually," I said, my voice stronger now, "everyone needs to leave." The house went quiet. Tyler stopped arranging clothes in the living room. Amanda froze with a box of cereal in her hands. "What?" Amanda asked. "You heard me," I said. "I want everyone out of my house right now." "Sarah, do not be ridiculous," Amanda said with a nervous laugh. "We just got here." "I do not care," I said. "I never invited you here, I never agreed to this, and I want you to leave." "You cannot be serious," Tyler said, standing up to his full height in what I assumed was supposed to be an intimidating gesture. "I am completely serious," I replied. Marcus appeared in the doorway looking confused and upset. "Aunt Sarah, are we in trouble?" My heart broke seeing his little face, but I forced myself to stay strong. "No, honey," I said gently. "But you and your family need to go back to your own house now." "But Mommy said this was our new house," Luna said, coming in from the backyard with dirt on her hands. Amanda immediately started crying again, this time making sure the children could see her distress. "Kids, go outside for a minute," Tyler said, clearly angry now. "The adults need to talk." Once the children were in the backyard, Tyler turned to me with fury in his eyes. "After everything we have been through, this is how you treat family," he demanded. "You would rather put children on the street than share your house." "You are not putting children on the street," I said. "You are manipulating me by using children as emotional weapons." "We have nowhere else to go," Amanda sobbed. "That is not my responsibility to solve," I said, and the words felt both terrible and liberating. "Not your responsibility." Tyler laughed harshly. "You are family. Of course it is your responsibility." "My responsibility is to myself and the life I work to build," I said. "I do not owe anyone my home just because we share DNA." Amanda looked at me like I had slapped her. "I cannot believe you just said that. I cannot believe you thought you could just move into my house without my permission," I replied. The argument continued for another hour, with Tyler becoming increasingly aggressive and Amanda cycling between tears and anger. At one point, she accused me of being jealous of her children, of being bitter because I was single, of thinking I was better than my family because I had a college degree. Finally, I had enough. "Get out," I said. "All of you, now, or I am calling the police." "You would call the police on your own sister?" Amanda asked incredulously. "If that is what it takes," I replied. Tyler started gathering their things, muttering under his breath about ungrateful family members and spoiled brats. Amanda continued crying, making sure to hug her children dramatically while telling them that sometimes people you love disappoint you. As they loaded their car, my parents pulled into my driveway. My heart sank. This was clearly coordinated. Linda and Robert walked into my house like they owned it, ready to continue the fight on Amanda's behalf. "What is this nonsense about calling the police on your own family?" my father demanded. "It is about setting boundaries," I replied. "Boundaries," my mother scoffed. "You sound like one of those selfish millennials who think boundaries means never helping anyone." "Helping and being exploited are two different things," I said. "Exploited." Robert laughed. "How are you being exploited? Amanda needs help, you have the means to help, so you help. That is how families work." "That is how dysfunction works," I replied, surprised by my own boldness. The truth came pouring out during the argument that followed. My parents admitted they had been planning this since the day I announced my house purchase. They had told Amanda she could count on staying with me. They had never even considered that I might say no. "We thought you would be more grateful for everything we have done for you," my mother said. "Grateful enough to give up my personal space indefinitely?" I asked. "Grateful enough to remember that family comes first," my father replied. "What about when I needed help with college expenses?" I asked. What about when I was struggling to save for this house? Where was the family support then? We helped when we could, Linda said defensively. You helped when it was convenient, I corrected. But now that I have something you want access to, suddenly family loyalty is the most important thing in the world. You do not even have children, Amanda called from the doorway where she had been listening. What do you need all this space for anyway? That was the moment I realized how little my own family understood or respected me. To them, I was not a complete person worthy of my own space and choices. I was just a resource to be utilized when needed. I need this space because it is mine, I said. I worked for it, I paid for it, and I get to decide how it is used. You sound like a spoiled brat, my mother said. And you sound like people who never saw me as anything more than a bank account with legs, I replied. My father stepped closer to me, his voice threatening. You need to watch your tone, young lady. We are still your parents. You are still my parents. I agreed, but that does not give you the right to run my life or guilt me into decisions I do not want to make. Fine, Amanda said from the doorway, her voice cold and final. If that is how you really feel, then I guess we know where we stand. I guess we do, I replied. They left that afternoon with a lot of door slamming and final insults about my character, my values, and my future. As Tyler loaded the last of their belongings, he told me I would regret this decision. Family is all you have in the end, he said, and you just threw yours away. No, I replied. I just stopped letting you take advantage of mine. The immediate aftermath was brutal. I spent that first night alone in my house feeling like I had made a terrible mistake. The silence felt oppressive after all the shouting and drama of the day. I changed my phone number the next morning and blocked all my family members on social media. I knew they would spend the next weeks or months trying to convince me I was wrong, trying to guilt me into changing my mind, and I could not handle any more emotional manipulation. Within days, I discovered Amanda had ramped up her social media campaign against me. She posted photos of the kids looking sad with captions about how some people care more about material things than family. She shared articles about the housing crisis and homelessness, always with pointed comments about people who have the power to help but choose not to. Family, friends, and extended relatives began reaching out to me with their opinions. Most of them had only heard Amanda's version of events, so I was painted as the villain in every story. I blocked them too. My coworker Jessica became my lifeline during those first few weeks. She reminded me daily that I had done the right thing, that setting boundaries was healthy, and that real family would never treat me the way mine had. You are not responsible for solving other people's problems, she told me, especially when those people refuse to take responsibility for themselves. I started therapy to help process what had happened. My therapist helped me understand the patterns of manipulation and guilt that had been part of my family dynamic for years. She helped me see that this situation with the house was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a lifetime of being expected to sacrifice my own needs for others. People who truly love you want you to succeed and be happy, she explained. They do not try to guilt you into giving up your accomplishments. As weeks passed, I began to feel something I had not experienced in months' peace. Without the constant phone calls demanding updates on my decision, without the guilt trips and emotional manipulation, I could finally enjoy my home. I decorated it exactly the way I wanted. I set up my art studio in the second bedroom and started painting again for the first time in years. I planted the garden I had always dreamed of. I invited friends over for dinner parties and movie nights. Most importantly, I stopped second-guessing every decision I made about my own life. 3 months after the confrontation, my job offered me an incredible opportunity. Our London office was expanding, and they wanted me to lead the marketing team there. It was a significant promotion with a substantial salary increase, but it would mean leaving Portland and the house I had worked so hard to buy. Initially, I was hesitant. How could I leave the house that had become the symbol of my independence and hard work? But as I thought about it more, I realized the house was never really the goal. The goal was freedom, stability, and the ability to make my own choices about my life. The house had been a symbol of those things, but it was not the things themselves. I accepted the position. I decided to rent out my house rather than sell it. The rental income would more than cover the mortgage, and it would give me a safety net in London while providing passive income for my future. It felt like the perfect solution. I put most of my belongings in storage and packed 2 suitcases for London. As I walked through my empty house one last time, I felt nothing but gratitude. This house had taught me who I really was and what I was capable of. It had shown me the difference between people who loved me and people who wanted to use me. It had given me the courage to choose my own happiness over other people's expectations. I joined a hiking club during my last month in Portland and made friends who appreciated me for who I was, not for what I could provide. I went on dates with people who respected my boundaries instead of trying to bulldoze through them. I discovered what it felt like to be valued for my personality and character rather than my usefulness. My life became infinitely less stressful without family members calling to guilt me about various decisions. I stopped walking on eggshells, stopped second-guessing my instincts, and stopped feeling responsible for other people's poor choices. The week before my flight to London, I ran into an old family friend at the grocery store. She had clearly heard Amanda's version of events because she looked at me with obvious disapproval. "I heard about what happened with your sister," she said. "That must have been a difficult decision." "It was the best decision I ever made," I replied honestly. She looked shocked by my response, but I did not elaborate. I had learned that people who wanted to judge me would do so regardless of my explanations, and people who truly cared about me would support my choices without needing detailed justification. I started my new life in London with a sense of possibility I had never experienced before. I found a beautiful flat in a neighborhood I loved, met colleagues who became genuine friends, and began exploring a city that felt full of potential. 6 months into my London adventure, I received a friend request on social media from my cousin Rachel. I almost deleted it automatically, but curiosity got the better of me. Her message was apologetic. She had learned more about what really happened between Amanda and me, and she wanted me to know that not everyone in the family believed Amanda's version of events. "I understand now why you made the choice you did," she wrote. "I am sorry for judging you without knowing the full story." I appreciated her message, but I did not respond. I had moved beyond needing validation from family members about my decisions. Their approval or disapproval no longer had the power to affect my peace of mind. My life in London exceeded every expectation. I excelled at work, traveled throughout Europe on weekends, and built a social circle of people who respected my boundaries and appreciated my friendship. I felt more confident, more secure, and more authentically myself than I ever had. About a year after moving to London, I learned through Rachel that Amanda and Tyler had eventually found stable housing through a government assistance program. The children were doing well in school, and the family had found their footing financially. I felt genuine relief hearing this news. I had never wanted them to struggle. I had simply refused to be manipulated into solving their problems for them. It turned out they were perfectly capable of finding solutions when they stopped expecting others to provide them. I learned something profound during this entire experience. Family is not about blood relation or obligation. Real family is about mutual respect, support, without conditions, and love that does not come with strings attached. The people who truly loved me celebrated my success instead of trying to exploit it. They respected my boundaries instead of trying to bulldoze through them. They wanted me to be happy and fulfilled, not useful and available. I built my real family from the friends I made in London, the colleagues who became mentors and confidants, and the community I created around shared values and genuine affection. Looking back now, I realize that buying my house was not the end of my journey toward independence. It was the beginning of my journey toward understanding my own worth and refusing to accept treatment that diminished it. That house taught me that I deserved respect, that my accomplishments belonged to me alone, and that setting boundaries was not selfish but necessary. It taught me that people who truly love you do not punish you for succeeding or guilt you into giving up your achievements. Most importantly, it taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who refuse to see your value. As I sit in my London flat now planning my next adventure, I am filled with gratitude for every difficult moment that brought me here. The pain of choosing myself over family expectations led me to a life of authentic happiness and genuine relationships. I learned that family is not about blood relations. Family is about mutual respect and support. True freedom is not just owning a house, it is owning your choices without guilt. Sometimes walking away from people who refuse to see your worth is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. As I board that plane to London, I am not running away from my problems. I am running toward the life I always deserved, one where my success is celebrated, not exploited, where my boundaries are respected, not violated. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own happiness? How did you handle pressure from loved ones who did not respect your boundaries? Share your story in the comments below because someone else might need to hear that they are not alone in facing these difficult decisions. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories about setting boundaries and choosing yourself, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that you deserve relationships that celebrate your success rather than exploit it. Until next time, keep choosing yourself and the life you deserve.